We're forcing young girls to be mothers, but not forcing the men to be fathers. This bill makes it illegal to prescribe, distribute, supply erectile dysfunction drugs or sexual impotency drugs.
Indiana State Representative Bartlett, who also was a great president on the West Wing, getting creative in the fight to protect human rights, aka women's rights. After Governor Holcomb, it should be Governor Howcome, you would take away humans' rights to make their own decisions about their own bodies, but that's too long to fit onto a state identification card. He got creative. This state rep Bartlett, who by the way is not the guy from the West Wing, totally different guy. The guy from the West Wing was fictional. He said, we're forcing women to be mothers, but we're not forcing men to be fathers. So his creative solution? Ban all erectile dysfunction and impotency drugs. I like the first part of the analogy. I'm a little confused by his solution. We're not forcing men to be fathers, so let's force even less of them to be fathers by not letting them get the erections necessary to make people pregnant. So it's a little confusing, but I do like the sentiment behind it for sure.
If, in fact, an unwanted pregnancy is an act of God, then impotency must be an act of God.
I'm starting to wonder whether he's actually trying to defend women or whether he's just trying to come up with a very handy excuse to present to his wife or girlfriend as to why he can't get it up. Impotency is an act of God. We just passed it in the Indiana state legislature, which we all know is controlled by the Lord. Anyway, this has also never happened to me before. Indiana will be banning abortion in most cases after 10 weeks. That's barely after most people know they're pregnant, and certainly before many people do know they're pregnant. In response to this, obviously, I was kidding earlier, in response to the good-minded amendment with the great point behind it made by State Rep Bartlett, a Democrat. Of course, his Republican and, of course, female Republican counterpart, because a lot of female Republicans don't realize they're female and or don't care about their own rights. She went up there and very jokingly responded, saying,
I will measure my comments just because I don't want to get in trouble. So at this time, we'll just leave it at that. Please oppose this amendment.
Saying through laughter, I will measure my comments because I don't want to get into trouble, but please oppose this amendment. And everybody in the chamber laughed. Is she implying that her husband has problems with his penis? And everybody knows it? They make fun of it in the State House? Hey, how's that limp dick husband of yours doing there, huh? He's got problems, right? Yeah. Don't worry, we're not going to ban the erectile dysfunction drugs. He'll be just fine. We're only going to ban a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. So everything's going to be okay for you, ma'am. Ma'am's a term for woman, by the way. But despite Indiana going the way of the past, it seems as though people overwhelmingly in this country, as they have time and time again and decade after decade, support the right to an abortion, as it was just put on the ballot in Kansas where the voters could decide, not just the governor signing something with people making jokes about it in the State House. And they voted overwhelmingly, 6 out of 10, to support abortion rights in the very red state of Kansas. We are in Kansas anymore. I know that sentence wasn't phrased properly, but you get my point. And that result was despite the fact that Republicans tried their usual very dirty tricks in trying to make sure that the voters' actual intention does not count, like they like to do because they're the party of being against democracy and being for autocracy and authoritarianism. That's just how it is. Sorry now. They made the vote for the measure during the primary, not during the general election, because they know there are far more Republican voters in already red state Kansas than there are Democrats, and undecideds cannot vote during the primaries. Still, 6 out of 10 voted to uphold abortion rights in the state of Kansas. And the other dirty tricks, they also made the ballot measure language very intentionally confusing on the pro-choice side to make it sound like it was pro-life, so they would vote against the side they wanted to vote for. They blasted voters with directly misleading text saying that voting yes meant voting no, and they also ran ads straight up lying what side voting for what would cause what. And still, overwhelming majority in Republican Kansas wants a woman's right to choose. Why is this? Because it always happens in this country. A poll showed that around 40% of people who even say they're morally opposed to abortion would still help a loved one get an abortion. and over 20% would help pay for it. Here's a newsflash for you. If you say you're morally opposed to something, but then you would help somebody do it when somebody asks you to help them do it, you're not morally opposed to it. Morals means you don't do the thing because you think it's wrong. 100% of people would say they're morally opposed to murder, and probably 99% of people would then not murder someone or help somebody murder someone. Do you see the difference? It proves that you're not morally opposed to abortion. It proves that you are just taught to say that because you're in a community that doesn't allow you to say things that support democratic points of view, even though democratic points of view are actually what you believe in much more of the time. As polls also show time and time again that when it comes to issues, voters are overwhelmingly Democrat, but they aren't allowed to say that because people around them are going to say, you hate this country and you're a libtard. And so they vote Republican and watch our country go down the toilet because of labels and because people are gullible and stupid. But at least if this Kansas trend continues across the country, people will hopefully still, in at least many states, have the choice whether or not to bring more stupid people into the world. For Rebel HQ, I'm Ben Gleib. You can hear my thoughts on abortion and many other topics, including some that aren't so controversial, like stories about ex-girlfriends, and a fight I got into in a parking lot, by checking out my second hour stand-up special dropping on YouTube August 14th. It's called The Mad King, and I'm doing a free watch party for it at Nowhere Comedy Club on Zoom. You can get a free ticket at nowherecomedyclub.com and watch it with me this Sunday at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. It'll be fun. I'll take your questions live, and you can hang for free, so you should probably do that, right? Okay, I'm glad we discussed this and agreed. See you then.